Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Tayia B. In this video, I'm going to be showing you my current foundation routine. I say current because I'm sure it will change over time. Being a beginner, I'm still learning new tips and tricks when it comes to foundation, contouring, highlighting, all that good stuff. So this is just what I do currently. I always start out on a fresh face and I always make sure that I moisturize my face. Today I'm going to be moisturizing my face with the Alpine Beauty Plant Genius Melt Moisturizer. And I've been using this moisturizer on and off for maybe about almost a month now, I believe, and I really like this moisturizer because it does such a good job with hydrating my skin, but it kind of leaves like a matte type of finish as well. So I really like that it does that, especially under my makeup, because I do tend to get oily throughout the day. So I do feel this moisturizer is a really good like moisturizer to use underneath my foundation. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the moisturizer, rub it in between my fingers, and then apply it to my face. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it has definitely toned down some of that shine that I had previously. At this point, I like to allow my moisturizer to just sit on my face for a few minutes before applying my primer. Now that my moisturizer has had a bit of time to sit, I'm going to go ahead and prime my face. I'm going to be using the Pore Professional Pore Primer from Benefit Cosmetics. I used this the last couple of times that I've done my makeup, and I really like the way that it makes my skin feel. So I'm going to go ahead and use it today. So I'm going to just take a little bit of the primer on my fingertips and smooth it on my face. Now I'm going to go ahead and conceal. So I started using the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue concealer, and I really like the way that it works under the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue foundation. 23 Dark is a close match to my skin tone, so I just apply some of this to the areas where I have hyperpigmentation, which is mostly my cheek and chin area. And now I'm just going to go in with a concealer brush and just blend that out. And you can see how well this concealer works because you can hardly tell that I had any dark spots on my cheek area. Now that my concealer is done, I'm going to go ahead and move on to foundation. For my foundation, like I said earlier in the video, I am going to be using the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue foundation. I really like this foundation because of the coverage. Before, I was not using the concealer, so it gave like a really nice, like natural type of finish to it. It wasn't too full coverage, which I really like about the foundation. However, the last time I did my makeup, I did do it with the concealer underneath the foundation, and it gave it a much more full coverage type of finish. So I'm going to be using the shade 130 Dark. And when I first purchased this foundation, I did buy it in a shade that was a little bit too light, which is this one right here, which is 129 Dark. I've actually noticed that by mixing a little bit of 129 with 130, it gives the true perfect match for my skin tone. If there's a foundation that you like that perfectly matches your skin tone, by all means keep on using it. But I really like the Dose of Colors foundation because it doesn't seem to irritate my skin or anything like that, and once everything is nice and set, it just looks flawless for me. So I'm going to go ahead and start by giving my foundation a little bit of a shake. And then I'm going to put one pump of 130 on the back of my hand. Whenever I apply my foundation, I used to just use a sponge, but I found that using a brush and then like going over it with a sponge looks much better for me. So I'm just using this flat foundation brush, and I'm just going to dab it into the foundation that's on the back of my hand, and then I'm going to start blending it out onto my face. I've always had an issue with finding a foundation that's like the perfect tone for my skin. I have kind of a weird undertone. For example, I was just using the 130 for a long time by itself, but over time I felt that it started to actually make me look a little bit too orange. But by mixing 130 and 129, I don't really have that issue. The good thing about it is both times that I bought this foundation, it was on sale. So it's like buying one foundation, which for me, you know, isn't too big of a deal since it was like half off when I purchased both of them. So far so good. I'm now going to just take about a half a pump of 129 also on the back of my hand and blend that out as well. Now I'm going to take a sponge. This is the Juno & Co. Lavender Microfiber Velvet Sponge. I think that's what it's called. It has kind of a long name. But I am going to wet this just a little bit. not too much because I don't want it to be soaking wet. Then I'm gonna just go in and kind of just like pat the foundation into my skin. Next, I'm going to go ahead and highlight. Again, I'm going to be using the Dose of Colors concealer. This one is in the shade 22 dark. It's one shade lighter than the one I was using earlier, which was 23 dark. I personally don't like my highlight to be too bright. I like it to just have like a nice natural glow, so whenever the sun hits my skin, it's like nice and natural, not too much, you know, just kind of a little subtle lighting. However, if you want your highlight to be just a little bit lighter than that, you can go like 2 to 3 shades lighter than your skin tone. Like I said, don't go that light, but I have seen others who have gone like 2 to 3 shades lighter than their skin tone, and it has worked very well for them. It really is just dependent upon how you want your skin to look in the end. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the concealer. One thing I've noticed is I never take the concealer like all the way under my eye because I have under eye creases already. I don't want the product to just sit in there, so I usually take my concealer like right under that area. I'll also put just a little bit on my forehead, bring a little bit down the bridge of my nose, and on my chin area. There are some people who like to highlight around the mouth area, but as I blend this out, I'll bring whatever's left on my sponge into that area. So taking that same Juno sponge, I'm gonna just go ahead and blend that out. And you really want to just take your time blending, but also work a little bit fast because you don't want the concealer to dry down too much where it's too heavy, or not too heavy, but too dry to where you can't blend it out. And a trick that I learned is that when you're blending out your under eye concealer, start with the outer part and then work your way in. So I'll just work by patting my concealer out and just up just a little bit, and then I'll move in and continue doing that same motion. As I get closer to my eyeshadow, I am being very careful not to disturb it too much. I am gonna clean up like that bottom edge, but I'm not gonna go, you know, into my eye area because obviously I don't want to mess my shadow up. But I am making sure to press the product into my, like where the creasiness is, that way it doesn't have a chance to just settle on its own. So now I'm just using whatever is left on the sponge to just even out my upper lip area. I think I am going to take just a little bit of 23 in that area since it's a closer match to my skin tone and I don't really want my upper lip to be super highlighted. I'm going to take just a little bit of 23 around that area. Boom, there you go. Foundation is on. For me, this is a really nice look, a really nice finish. It's not too over the top. My hyperpigmentation can barely be seen, but I feel like my skin still looks like skin. It's not super cakey. It's not like too overdone or anything like that. So for me, this is a great foundation application. So now I'm going to go ahead and set the areas in which I highlighted. Today I'm going to be using the Laura Mercier translucent loose setting powder, and this is just a small sample that I received. There's another setting powder that I use, like both of them work very well for me, but today this is the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to first start out by getting an even amount onto this little baby sponge that I like to use under my eyes, and I'm going to just set that there like so. And while I allow that to set for a little bit, I'm going to go in with my Fenty Beauty Sunstalker Bronzer and Caramel Cutie. Lately, I've noticed that I actually really prefer to just use a little bit of bronzer rather than contouring my face with the actual contour stick or anything like that. I feel like the bronzer just gives like a nice subtle warmth to the face and it doesn't make it look overdone. I do like natural looking makeup, if you haven't figured that out already, because I haven't been going too ham with my foundation, highlight, and things like that. So I like to keep with that same tone and just do a nice natural contour situation. So I'm going to get some of the bronzer on this powder contour brush and I'm just going to apply it to my face. I like to apply it using gentle sweeping / stroking motions, going from the area closest to my mouth and working my way back. A lot of times people make the duck face, like the little fish lips, which will allow you to easily follow your natural contour of your face. So you can either do that or eye it. I've done my contour quite a few times now, or I've done my bronzer rather quite a few times now, so I kind of know where the natural line is. But if it helps you, I definitely recommend that you make that face. It looks silly, but it helps. The best thing that you can do is start with a little bit on your brush and add more as you go. That way you don't overdo it. But I also like to go ahead and bronze this area up here. I kind of just follow like the natural contour of my face. Also, something that I've learned along the way is that I try not to bring the contour down my face because it kind of just makes everything melt together and it just looks really weird. So whenever I brush or, you know, add my little soft strokes, I do kind of do a flick where I'm going upwards rather than bringing it down. I've seen people do this, and I actually usually don't, but I have seen them add a little bit of the setting powder that they use to set their highlight in this area, and this is just to help brighten it up a little bit right there, so you kind of really get that transition from your bronzer to your skin. I do like to bronze just a little bit around my jawline. Now to set the rest of my face, I'm going to use the Becca Cosmetic Hydra-Mist Set and Refresh Powder in Golden Bronze. If I don't use this, then I'll use my Micro Smooth powder from Sephora, but I really like the way that this setting powder feels on my skin. Like, it really does feel like it's a cool mist on the skin, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one today. And I'm going to just take a large fluffy brush, get some onto it, tap off the excess, and just gently sweep it all over my face. And as I do this, I am going to kick off that translucent setting powder. So my face is now nice and set. So now I'm going to go ahead and just finish my eyes off camera, and then we will come back on to finish the face. To finish off my face, I'm going to go ahead and go in with some blush and some highlighting powder. This blush is from e.l.f. This is the Radiant Peach blush, and I'm actually not that big on blushes, but this one I do enjoy using. You can use a blush brush or any other like face brush just to apply some to your skin, and I don't apply a lot of this, so I'm going to start out with just a little bit on my brush. This brush is from BH Cosmetics, and I really like using this because it has this little curve in it, and it fits perfectly on my cheek area. So that's all the blush I'm going to apply. Like, you can hardly tell that it's there, but I can see that it's there, so I feel like that's the perfect amount for me. And then this is a loose powder highlight. This one is the one from the Makeup by Shayla ColourPop collection in the shade Pose. I actually have quite a few highlighters, but this is the powder highlighter that I tend to reach for the most. So I'm going to just take this small fan brush, dip it in the highlighter very gently, and then apply it like right above where I applied my contour. And I like to just use my finger to kind of just blend it out a little bit so that line underneath isn't too harsh. And I like to take just a little bit on the tip of my nose. Then I'll use a small pointed brush just to apply some right on my cupid's bow. Of course, all of this is optional, but I really like highlighters, so I just go for it. For my lips, I'm going to be lining them using the MAC lip pencil in the shade Chestnut. I feel like a really good dupe for this pencil is the ColourPop BFF4. I also have that pencil, which is what I usually line my lips with, but for some reason I can't find it right now, so I'm going to go ahead and use this pencil. And then in the center of my lips, I'm going to be using this Nude Sticks Magnetic Lip Plush Paints in the shade Waikiki Rose. I actually really like this. I received this lip paint in a BoxyCharm box, but I really love like the satiny smooth finish and feel of it. I kind of went into that highlight that I had on my cupid's bow, so I'm gonna just add a little bit more to that area. Then finally, I'm gonna use a little bit of my Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb in Fenty Glow. This concludes my foundation routine. I try to keep it as simple as possible, and as you probably noticed, I did not use a setting spray. I noticed that the one that I was using actually makes me look more oily at the end of the day. I was using the MAC Fix Plus spray, and I noticed that by the day's end my skin just looked super oily compared to when I would just use a setting powder and would just, you know, do a little blotting throughout the day. So I definitely like using the setting powder much better. But if you have oily skin or skin that is prone to getting oily throughout the day and you have found a setting spray that works very well for you, I would absolutely love to know what that is below down in the comment section. I really hope that you found this video helpful, and if you are a beginner who is watching this video, I really hope that you were able to take something away from it. Like I said, I really try to keep my routine as simple as possible because I get confused, and then if I do too much, then by the time, you know, things are done, I start looking like a clown, and that's the last thing that I want. So I do try to just keep things very simple. As time goes on, I'm sure I will be learning, you know, new things to incorporate into my routine. But if you have any tips, tricks, or suggestions that you want to share with me now so that I can use it the next time I do my foundation, I would absolutely love to know. So please let your girl know. You can do so by leaving a comment down below. Don't forget to go ahead and like this video if you did enjoy it and if you learned something from it. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I truly appreciate you making it this far. But with that being said, y'all, I will see you in my next video, and do not forget to stay dazzling.